بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
To look at Badr al-Kubra, the first great ghazwa in our tradition, and it's something you have to understand the restraint of the companions, because when the Prophet ﷺ made the migration, he was coming to one, a warring people, and secondly they were ulul ba's, they were people of strength. And so for them to restrain themselves and to deal with the subjugation and the torture and the chastisement of that Qurayshi community, and to not respond in a way which they would ordinarily respond, be safe with the sword, was difficult. And we have to, just to slightly recap, or just to mention some of the chastisement that those great people took. Al-Ra'sihim Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah radiallahu anhu, who we know that his chastisement, like a method of his chastisement and torture, was for the Umayyah ibn Khalaf to place cast iron armor onto his body and then to place him out in the Bahira during the midday. Where even to this day people in the Arabian Peninsula, if it's hot, they're going to use a handkerchief to open the doors of their cars because their hands will get seared. And so they used to place cast iron armor onto him and place him out for hours in the Bahira when the sun was at its zenith, until the cast iron would sear his back, radiallahu anhu. And then they would rip the cast iron armor off of his back, and it was that raw back that they would whip. And then there was that raw back that they would place on the floor and put a large boulder upon it to crush his chest, radiallahu anhu. Now mention our gods. He used to say, Lisani la yusli hada. My tongue can't do it. And they say that they used to tie a coarse rope around his neck and drag him around. And they used to do that to many of the companions, but they say the Sayyidina Bilal, they used to beat him so badly that they would become physically tired, fatigued. Beat a man until you can't beat him anymore. And it was during one of these episodes that Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu came to Umayyah ibn Khalaf, and you know the story, but just to recap, to understand how they wanted to respond to the chastisement, but they weren't given the idhn, the permission. And so when Abu Bakr as-Siddiq sees his blessed companion in this situation, and he goes to Umayyah ibn Khalaf and he says, name the price. And so Umayyah upped the price to 9 uqiyah, 9 measurements of gold, which is a lot. When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said, a safaqah, it's a deal. And then he gives the gold over to Umayyah, and Umayyah responds by saying what? Meaning, I've duped you. Had you given me 1 uqiyah for this Abyssinian slave, I would have given him to you. Abu Bakr said, if you asked for 100, I would have paid it. Right? These people were tadhiyah, sacrifice. And Badr is the ultimate sacrifice. But look at this. Even when that occurrence goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, he says, I want to give money towards the ownership of Bilal. And Abu Bakr said, what? He said, I can't, I've already freed him. He's a freed slave. This is why Bilal used to refer to himself as a Hasana min Hasanat Abi Bakr. I'm just a good deed from the deeds of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So the chastisement that the companions would go through, it was very difficult. They are ulul ba's, they are warring people. Even when they go up against the Quraysh, who some of those detested figures to us, the books of Seerah still attest to the fact that they were ulul ba's. They were people of strength as well. They were not punks. They weren't weak. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after all this chastisement, أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ بَأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. Permission now is granted to fight for those who are oppressed. And so the story, to recap, is what? Abu Bakr, Abu Sufyan, he's traveling to the Al-Khashitari was safe, the 2 caravan excursions, the trade trip visits that they would do too. And he was trading with what? The wealth of the Muslims who were expelled or given permission to migrate. It's with that wealth that they took to then trade in the Sham. And so when he comes back en route, the Prophet ﷺ gets wind of this, and he sends two companions to go and assess the situation because they want their wealth to be returned. And when they send them, Abu Sufyan gets wind of this, and he sends a man called Damdam ibn al-Ghafari to Quraysh to tell them that the Muslims are going to attack your caravan. So send for reinforcements. So when this gets back to Quraysh, now they're going to prepare for what? Prepare for war. Whilst they're en route to Badr, the companions and the Prophet ﷺ are en route to engage or intercept the caravan of Abu Sufyan. And like we said, these people are not ulul bats, they're waiting for war, but they didn't come out for war. Okay? As an example, subhanAllah, and I'm sure Shaykh Fa'iz has been over these things with you, but just to remind us, sometimes we look at the women folk of the companions. Because we speak about the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and in studying the Shama'il of the Prophet ﷺ, you're going to find out at the age of 63, flat stomach, six-pack. Physically very strong. Right? We don't tend to talk about those sunnahs when we touch our stomachs, do we? The sunnah of a flat stomach. Notice I'm holding my breath right now. Right? But that's a sunnah, meaning if that was what the men was like, what were the women like? Or if the women were like that, then what were the men like? When the Prophet ﷺ, in the battle of Uhud, when they're surrounding him, the great woman Nusaybah bint Ka'b, she came when she saw that they were surrounding him, and they would jump up and put their bodies before him to intercept the arrows, so that nothing would touch his blessed body. Nusaybah bint Ka'b, likewise from amongst those people, she was attending to the wounded, but when she saw the Prophet being surrounded, then she went for it. And she was ulul bats likewise. And the Prophet said, مَا الْتَفَتْتُ يَمِينٍ وَلَا شِمَالٍ, I never looked to my left or my right, except I saw Nusaybah bint Ka'b تُقَاتِلُ بِجَنْبِي. She would be waging war next to me. And she got wounded, severely wounded, until she was knocked out. Or if we look at Khawla bint al-Azwar, the great Sahabiya, the sister of Dirar ibn al-Azwar, who again was a great warrior. She was reared alongside him, radiyallahu anha. And when her brother engaged in war behind the Riyah of Khalid ibn Walid, and he enters into the depths of the Romans, and so he disappears. So Khawla bint al-Azwar, she dons a turban and mulaffaf, and she covers her face, and she goes into the enemy without permission of Khalid ibn Walid. They say that when she was striking through the enemy, all you saw was heads flying off. Right? Because very few of the companions who were master warriors, they could engage in warfare on horseback holding two weapons. And they're maneuvering the horse whilst they're fighting. And she was one of those. And so you can imagine heads flying off everywhere. And so Khalid ibn Walid said, who's this young man that entered without permission? And so they go after and summon her. And when they ask, he says, who are you? And then she says that I'm just a woman whose heart is burning because my brother, when they realized that it was a woman. And so Khalid then he goes to find Dirar behind who? Khawla bint al-Azwar, behind a woman. Once they were caught one day in a campaign. And she was, mashallah, she was very pleasant looking. And so the governor of one of the Roman war campaigns said, because they were a group of women and she was at the head of them, he goes, all of you I'm going to take as slaves, apart from you. You're going to be my wife. And she goes, for that comment, I'm going to cut your head off. And she did. If that's what the women folk were like, how do you think our great heroes in our tradition were? How do we think, we know the story of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, that when he was engaging in war in one of the fortresses, he ripped off a door to use it as a shield to then engage. And at the end of the campaign, he cast the door aside. It was Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who was again a warrior. He said, 8 of us tried to flip it and we couldn't even lift it up. So what was Ali like? And then what's Hamza like? But then one of the most profound hadith to me, when we understand or attempt to understand who these people were, is when Imam Ali karramallahu wajhu said what? إِذَا كَشَفَتْ الْحَرْبَ سَاقِهَا, when the shin of war was exposed. That's an Arabic way of saying when it's intense. Allah says, يَوْمَ يُكْشَفُ عَنْ سَاقٍ, the day that the shin is exposed, i.e. the day that it's really intense. So Imam Ali says what? إِذَا كَشَفَتْ الْحَرْبَ سَاقِهَا, when the shin of war was exposed, i.e. when it got really tough, كُنَّا نَتَّقِي بِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ, we would seek shield behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what was he like? My point being what? The chastisement that they went through, they didn't respond, not because they were feeble-hearted, or not because they were aqillah, not because they were few in number, because the idhn, the permission was not there. Now when the permission comes, this is what they're waiting for. Right? This is what they're waiting for. But what Badr is going to tell us, we're going to say it now, we're going to repeat it at the end, is La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. That's the overriding dars lesson that we learn from the Battle of Badr. There's no power, no strength save with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when they comes out, and they've already left the precincts of Yathrib, of Medina, to engage with the caravan, and then they realize now that the reinforcements are coming from Quraysh, they intercept two men. And these two men were getting water for Quraysh, the armies of Quraysh. And so the companions asked them, what are you doing? And they said, we're bringing water. And the Prophet asked them, he said, how many of them are there? And they say, we cannot accurately say. And so he says, how many camels are they slaughtering? And he says, between 9 to 10 a day. So the Prophet says, and there's 900 to 1,000 of them. And so he asked, tell me from amongst who is there? And they mentioned 15 of the tribal leaders. So the Prophet says that Mecca has thrown me the best morsels of her liver, meaning the best of the best have come out. And so he says to the companions, Ashiru alayya, give me your counsel, because they didn't come out to wage war initially. They came to intercept the caravan. And so Miqdad from the Muhajirin says to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, you command us. And when you command us, we're not going to be like the people. We're not going to be like the people of Moses, who said to Moses, "Go forward and wage war whilst we stay here." But you say to us, "Go forward," and you're going to find us before you, behind you, to your left and to your right. And this pleased the Prophet ﷺ, but he said, "What again? Ashiru alayya," meaning, "Give me your counsel." So the Ansar realized that he was referring to who? To them, because they had promised to give him nusra in Yathrib. Now they've come out of Yathrib, so he wanted to hear from them. Likewise, Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh said what? The tribe leader of Al-Aws. He says, Ya Rasulullah, he goes, we've believed in you, we testify to your truth, and if you were to command us to do anything, even if you were going to enter into the sea, you'd find us behind you in the sea. So khalas, now what? It's on. Right? Now it's on. So they build a small edifice for the Prophet ﷺ. Just prior to that, when he had stopped in a specific area, Badr is called Badr, why? Because of the wells. There were wells there, water wells, and it was named after a man from Bani Ghafar called Badr. And so the area was named after this individual. And so when the Prophet stopped, a companion asked him, is this from Wahi, from revelation, or is it Makida, or is it a war strategy? So the Prophet said, Bal Ra'i al Makida, it's opinion and a stratagem. So then he said, no, let's go towards the wells and build a system around the wells to stop the water flow going to Quraysh. So when they're in this area, they moved there, they built what? They built a small edifice for the Prophet ﷺ. Alhamdulillah, I had the blessings of being in Umrah 2 weeks ago. And we were blessed to go to Badr and see, it's called Masjid Arish now, where they built a mosque over where the Prophet ﷺ built a small edifice. We saw the graveyard of the Shuhada of Badr, and the wells where the bodies of the of the enemy were cast into are now public toilets, which is being recorded. I want to go back one day, so we'll stop here. And so Masjid Arish was built, and the Prophet ﷺ now he's going to supplicate to his Lord, right? Because again, he's showing us what la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power nor strength save from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he now goes into a soliloquy where he beseeches his Lord, Jalla fil ula. In Tuhlak Hadi al-Usaba, oh Allah, he says that Quraysh have come with their khuyala, with their arrogance and the like. وَإِن تُحْلَكْ هَذِهِ الْعُصَابَةِ فَلَا تُعْبَدْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And if you were to destroy the small band of people, 313 from the Ansar and the Muhajirin, لَمْ تُعْبَدْ, you won't be worshipped any longer. Now the Prophet is engaging in supplication all night until his shawl falls off of his shoulder, and Abu Bakr sees this. And so he grabs his shawl and he places it onto the shoulder of the Prophet, and he goes, كَفَاكَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ قَدْ أَلَحْتَ عَلَى رَبِّكَ. It suffices, O Messenger of God, truly you've beseeched your Lord. Again, the Prophet is not doing this from a position of fear. He's the Qurbatul Hasana, right? He's the example for us. No matter, the companions are a vast spectrum, very different shades, colours, dispositions and the like. You will tell me from studying Seerah, what was the message of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab when he makes the migration? Intention. Sahih, what was his message to Quraysh? Because when the permission was given, everyone leaves Mecca quietly. What does Umar ibn Khattab say?
Challenges them to stop.
He says, whoever wants their wives to be with our husbands and the mothers to lose their sons, meet me over there. I'm off to Medina. Right? And we hear that and we're like, Allahu Akbar. But he's not the Qudwa. He's not the example. The example is the Prophet ﷺ, with all deference, and we love that story. I love that story. Right? But the Prophet ﷺ, he's the example. And his beseeching his Lord all night is not because he fears failure or he fears being defeated. But when Abu Bakr says to him, قَدْ أَلَحْتَ عَلَى رَبِّكَ, indeed you have truly asked your Lord over and over again. The Prophet goes into the edifice and he comes out wearing his dirah. Okay, and he says to Abu Bakr, Abshir ya Abu Bakr, be happy, O Abu Bakr. فَعَادَ جِبْرِيلٌ آخِذٌ بِإِنَانِ فَرَسِهِ. This is Gabriel. Gabriel is holding the reins of his horse and he's dressed for war. It's all bad, right? Meaning, who are you waging war against? Right? Likewise in Sahih Bukhari, Abdullah ibn Umar said what? He goes, the Prophet comes out in the morning and he points to different positions in Sahih Bukhari, he points to different positions on the ground. And he goes, هذا مسرى فلان, هذا مسرى. This is where so-and-so is going to die. And this is where so-and-so is going to. He's telling exactly where people are going to fall in the Battle of Badr. Abdullah ibn Umar said what? He said that, he goes, when we surveyed the battlefield after, he goes, it was not a handspan's difference to what the Prophet said, where so-and-so. So he knows. But he's the example for us. Now when he comes out saying, Abshir, be happy, Abu Bakr, Gabriel's dressed for war, and he's holding, Hizum was his Gabriel's horse, right? Many years later, Jibreel alayhi salam, he asked the Prophet, he goes, tell me about the people of Badr. And the Prophet said, they are the most eminent, the best of us. And he goes, كَذَلِكَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ, likewise the angels that attended the Battle of Badr, they are from the best of us. Nimrod, the Pharaoh, during the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he comes out with his vast armies, and he wants to wage war to the God of Abraham. So he's out there with his vast armies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a fly, and the fly lodges itself into the nose of Nimrod, and so he starts to beat himself because he can't take it. Every time he beats himself, it stops what? That right? So then again he stops, and so he beats himself again until he beat himself to death. So he's coming out to wage war with the God of Abraham, with all of his armies. What does Allah send him to defeat him? A fly. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power save with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But from the sharaf, from the honor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you think Gabriel can't take them out? Right? Does it need, we're going to send 1,000 angels to have your back. Right? The angels have the back of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to walk sometimes sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he used to tell his companions from his humility to walk in front of him. Right? And they used to ask him, Kayf, how can we walk in front of you, Ya Rasulullah? And he goes, don't worry, he goes, I've got your back. And he says, don't worry about my back, because the malaika have my back. Right? So from the sharaf of the Prophet ﷺ, they're going to send angels, the best of angels. So now he comes out, dressed, the Prophet dressed for war in his dir'a, in his armor. And he holds an arrow. And he tells the companions to get in line. So they get in line, and there's a man called Su'ad ibn Ghaziyah, who's slightly forward in the line. So he takes his arrow and prods him on the stomach. He goes, Su'ad, get in line. Su'ad says, Ya Rasulullah, he goes, that's not fair. Right? I want revenge. He says, what do you mean revenge? Right? He goes, you stabbed me with an arrow. So I want revenge. And so the Prophet put the arrow in his hand, and he raises his armor, and he says, take it. So Su'ad casts the arrow to the side, he grabs the Prophet, and he starts to rub his face in his stomach. And he says, Ya Su'ad, ma hamalaka ala dhalika? Oh Su'ad, what caused you to do this? He says, Ya Rasulullah, he goes, you see what we're before. 313 up against 1,000. Right? And he goes, if this is the last time we meet, I want my flesh to touch yours. This is how they were, radiallahu ta'ala. A love or a connection that we hope to have an iota of that. Right? We hope to have just an ounce of the love that they had for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, I mean, Badr took place 17th of Ramadan in the second year of Hijri, which means ordinarily they were what?
Fasting.
They're fasting. We think, oh, summertime, when we're going to do it, you know, is there a rukhsah for, right? You have to think about who these people were. And so, khalas now they're going to engage. And so when they engage, it was a customary practice for the Arabs in war. Before, you're going to go the best up against what? The best. They say that the greatest warriors used to wear the ostrich feather on their chest, so when they engage with war, they wouldn't be messing around with the likes of me and you. Right? It's the best up against the best. And so Shayba, Ibn Rutbah come forward, and they say, duel. So the Ansar, boom, 3 of them get up straight away. So they say, Man antum, who are you? So they give their name. So they say, Akfa'un kiram, meaning noble companion, noble opponents. But we want what? From our blood, our flesh. Send us from our kith and kin. So the Prophet says, Ubaidah, Ali, Hamza. Stand Ubaidah, stand Ali, stand Hamza. Okay? Again, I was speaking about the 6-pack. Right? Ubaidah, how old is he when he wages war? First off, what did I just say to you? On the duel, who are you going to pick?
The best.
The best, right? You're going to pick the best. So he's picking Imam Ali Karramallahu wajhu, Imam Hamza we know, isn't it? Or we can go on the tales and stories about their bravery. They're examples of bravery, synonymous with the word bravery. Ubaidah is 64 years old. Imam Hamza, 54. Sayyidina Ali is young. Ubaidah is 64 years old. How many 24-year-olds do we know that could be like this great man? And so when they enter into the duel, Imam Hamza, Imam Ali, radiallahu anhuma, dispatch of their opponents briefly. Ubaidah strikes his, at the same time he gets struck, and they say they sever his leg until you see the marrow oozing out of the bone of his leg, and then Imam Hamza, Imam Ali come and they finish off his opponent. And they say Ubaidah, he's there, and he starts to verse poetry. I'd love to hear you all try to verse poetry on a good day. But whilst your leg is hanging off with marrow coming out of the bone, it's people operating on a totally different level. If you sever my leg out to a Muslim, right? And I anticipate from God an immense reward or a fine life. And my Lord has enveloped me with the clothing from His grace. لباس الإسلام غطي المساوية, the clothing of Islam which covers all faults. Right? Who can verse poetry in that type of? And it was common practice. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib in the Battle of Mu'tah, when we have 10,000, some say 3,000 to 10,000. The dominant position is 3,000 of the Muslims, and up against 200,000 of the enemy. 200,000. And the Prophet says what? Who takes the raya? La ilaha illallah. Who are the poets of the Prophet? Not Hassan bin Thabit. Abdul ibn Rawaha. Yeah, Abdul ibn Rawaha. Sheikh's here, I'm looking at you. So, and if he falls, then who? Usama bin Zayd. If he falls, who? Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. And so when Ja'far, again, he takes the raya and he engages in war, his right hand is cut off. So he grabs it with the left. When his left hand is cut off, he grabs it with the adl. And when he falls, again, Abdullah ibn Umar says that I surveyed the battlefield. And Ja'far has over 90 wounds, every single wound in the front of his body, which means he never what? Never turned his back. Right? And when they come to Ja'far, and they say, Ja'far, he's on the cusp of death, or martyrdom, we should say, sorry. And they say, if you've ever been around someone, I've been around a number of people who are close to dying, what do they have in hospital? They have those little tubs of water, because of an intense thirst that people go through. And so they say to Ja'far, Ishrab, drink this water. He says, La. No, they say, why? Because I'm fasting. And they say, Ja'far, look at your state. Drink. He says, La, I'm going to break my fast in Jannah.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, again, he was one from amongst those that what? Just versing poetry. Right? And so, the duel is concluded. The Prophet ﷺ takes a hafna, he takes a clasp of earth, and then he casts it in the direction, Shahat al-wujuh, may their faces be disfigured. Every single one of the enemy has this dust go into their eyes, which is Allah says, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. You did not cast when you did cast, but it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who cast. Again, لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Right? Nusra is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The victory is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now again, it's on. They engage in war. And again, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud is saying, what? He says, I'm chasing people, and before me I'm about to strike them, and they split in half. Right? The Malaika now are on board. Yeah? They say there was one, I don't know whether it was this battle, but there was one person who died when he heard this whip crack. Said, Aqdim Hayzum, go forward Hayzum. This is Gabriel speaking. Just by the whip crack, someone's going to fall down dead. And so now they're engaging in war. Right? When they're engaging in war, again, the Prophet said, now, إِنَّهُ بَشْرٌ مِثْلُنَا from one aspect. وَلَكِنْ يُوحَى عَلَيْهِ, he's revealed to revelation, not like us. So they know he is an extraordinary human being. But just to look at, again, the azima, the firm resolve of the companions. And Shaykh Bakir's teachers and our teachers tell us what? If someone has a firm azima, if they have a firm intention to do something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change the cosmos to fulfill that intention. So these people are there, firm resolve, i.e. imma al-husnayn. Either it's going to be victory or what? Shahada. So when they're going forward, Mu'adh bin Sa'd, he goes forward again, Ikram ibn Abi Jahl from the back, he cuts him, severs his arm at the shoulder. And so Mu'adh said, Kuntu uqatil, I was waging war. and my arm is dangling off of my back. Can you yu'dhini? And it's bothering me.
Subhanallah.
It's bothering me. So he says that because it was bothering me, I ripped it off. I put his foot under his arm, ripped it off so he could continue waging war. You can't make a movie like this, can you? Right? With all of the, I'm going to swear, with all of the things that they have in these films, you can't make a movie like this. And so he rips it off. They say in one narration, they take it to the Prophet who spat on it and reattached his arm to Mu'ab. Ukasha ibn Mihsan. Again, they're waging war. Ukasha, what happens to Ukasha? Ukasha's waging war and his sword breaks. So when his sword breaks, they know exactly how many horses they have, how much munitions they have, but yet he's still going to what? Turn to the Prophet ﷺ. Ya Rasulullah, my sword's broken. What do you expect him to do? You know you're not coming to an ordinary man, that's the point. Right? So he says, Ukasha, jahidu bihada. So he picks up a branch and he throws it in the direction of Ukasha. Mid-flight it turns into a sword. And he's to call this sword al-aun, the aid. And he would wage war with this sword for many other battles thereafter. You're not coming to an ordinary man, you're just not. Right? The people of Badr, again, there's a hadith, I believe it's Sahih Bukhari, Shaykh Fa'iz, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah? Allah said, it's as if Allah gazed upon the people of Badr. فَقَالْ يَأْمُلُوا مَا شِئْتُمْ. Go and you can do now whatever you want. إِنِّي غَفَرْتُ لَكُمْ. For I've forgiven you. Like after this day, it's like they can do no wrong, quote unquote, if they were hasha to perpetrate sin or the like, because of the sacrifice and tadhiyah they gave to this. And so now Ukasha, he goes forward, and now they start to drive the enemy back. Abu Jahl is trying to what? Keep everyone from fleeing. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, he would say that when I looked at the Prophet ﷺ, he goes, there was a man to qatil, there's a man fighting to his right and to his left, before him and behind him that I'd never seen before. They knew exactly who 313 of these people were. So again, what's he being witness to? Angels. Right? There's some hadith, some of the companions, depending on however Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed in a hikmah that's befitting to him. There's the hadith about the hadith Jibreel, which we all know about, the man that came exceedingly white clothing, dark hair. There's a hadith the companions say, Kunna nasma rajjahu wa la nara. We would hear the response but couldn't see anything. So certain companions were unveiled to see angels, certain companions weren't. Whilst Abdurrahman ibn Auf is fighting, he says, Waladan, two youths from Abna Afra, from the tribe of Afna, came to me. And they said, and he goes, when I looked at them, I thought, they're not maris, they're not versed in war. They're just kids. Right? Which is again amazing. We say that when the Prophet ﷺ would give the call out for a war campaign, that children would run before him and then stand on tiptoe to make themselves what? Look bigger. There were two that went there standing on tiptoe. The Prophet picked one and not another. So this child goes back home weeping. And his father asks him, he says, what happened? He goes, the Prophet picked my friend, but I've beaten him in wrestling. So they go, let's go and see the Prophet ﷺ. So they go and see the Prophet ﷺ, and he says to him, Ya Rasulullah, he goes, my son wants to partake, but you picked someone else. But he beat that person in wrestling. The Prophet goes, bring them here and let them wrestle. So they brought them forward and wrestled, that he picked both of them, inshallah, to partake in the war. There was another child, 10 years old, walking with his father. And whilst they're walking, there's a campaign going on. And so he looks to his father at the age of 10, and he says, Ya Abati, oh my father, do you have a message to the Prophet ﷺ? Because the Prophet passed away. And so he goes, what do you mean give a message to the Prophet? He goes, I'm going to go now to this war and I'm going to hope for shahada, for martyrdom. And when I meet the Prophet ﷺ, I'm going to give any message. And so his father says to me, he goes, inshallah, I'm going to meet him before you. Right? That's a 10-year-old boy. So these two youths, they come to Abdurrahman ibn Auf. And they said, which one's Abu Jahl? And they're not interested in anyone else. Yeah, they're interested in Abu Jahl, right? They want to take him out. Again, what we learn, for example, just as an aside, the rahmah of the Prophet ﷺ. How many ghazawat did he partake in? With the various, I'll accept any because there are many different opinions as to how many ghazwa campaigns did he partake in. Some say 27, some say 19, some say a lot more, and then they differ between a ghazwa and a sariyah, which Shaykh Fa'iz inshallah explain to you at some other time. So he's partaken in a number of battles, and we said that the great warriors, when it got really harsh, they used to what? Seek refuge behind him. How many people did he take out? So, ultimate warrior, the greats of our tradition seek refuge behind him, partook in at least 27 campaigns. How many people did he take out? One. Allah yubarak fiqh, Ubay ibn Khalaf. Right? One. Because he was unable to take them all out? La. He said, اشتد العذاب على من قتل نبيا أو قتل النبي. The chastisement or punishment is harshest for someone who has been killed by a prophet or kills a prophet. So he's still rahmatin al-alameen. Even on the battlefield. Ubay used to have a horse in Mecca, and he would groom this horse. And every time he'd see the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he goes, Ya Muhammad, I'm going to kill you on this horse one day. And so in a campaign, Ubay is looking for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, just as these two were looking for Abu Jahl. And so he's saying to the companion, Aina Muhammad, Aina Muhammad. Imam Ali, karramallahu wajhu, used to say what? He said, if we lost the Prophet ﷺ and we wanted to find him on the battlefield, we'd look where the thick of the mess was, and we knew he'd be in the middle. Right? So when he says, I'm looking, where is he? Even the companions are saying to him, what? Don't go there. Right? It's not going to be good. Yeah? So he was musir, adamant that he was going to kill the Prophet ﷺ on the same horse that he would groom in Mecca, particularly for this event. So he says, where's Muhammad, where's Muhammad? And when the Prophet sees him, there's different riwayat, there's different narrations. Some say that they concur upon that he struck him what? Once. Some say he struck him on the head, some say on the neck, some say on the foot. Reminds me of those samurai films. You know, when the samurai would just come, do his thing, walk away, and the person would just drop down dead. He's just walking away whilst that person's. So when he goes and he strikes him, whether it's the head, neck, or foot, and he falls down, he says, Qatalani Muhammad, Muhammad has killed me, Muhammad has killed me. So when Quraysh came around, they said, we can't, what? We can't even see anything. He goes, if this strike had struck a mountain, it would shatter. And then he died from that. But look, the Prophet only killed what? Only one person, Allah yubarak fiqh. Because he's rahmatin lil alameen. Right? Because he's rahmatin lil alameen. Allah guide my people, they don't know what they're doing. In the thick of the mess. He's still praying for them. Right? That's a profound human being, and these are the stories we need to share with people who try to disparage or cast aspersions on the character of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma ahyi qawman fahum la ya'lamun. Allah guide my people, they don't know what they're doing. But when they made him miss prayer, Allahumma imla budunum nara, oh Allah, fill their bellies with fire. That's the significance of prayer. So Abna al-Afrad, these two youths, they're Mumaris, they don't look like they're versed in war. So they ask Abdurrahman ibn Auf, which one's Abu Jahl? And so he says, Abu Jahl can throw down as well, right? He's a warrior. Because when, which you did in the Seerah, when Imam Hamza accepts Islam, and he comes back from his hunting expedition, and he strikes Abu Jahl on his forehead and gives him a gash, and he's there with all of his cohorts, 30 strong, and Sayyidina Hamza says to him, what? Meaning, I'm upon the faith of my nephew, now what? Yeah? Abu Jahl, what does he say? Because all 30 get up to what? Attack Hamza. Right? They say he stops them, blood dripping from his forehead. He goes, I did truly revile his nephew. That, again, not because Abu Jahl is weak, he's known to be a warrior. he's not Hamza. Right? Hamza in the Battle of Badr alone takes out 33 people. So Abdurrahman ibn Auf says there he is in that direction. So he says they fell upon him like hawks, those two small companions, one on one side, one on the other, until they finished him off. And then they run to the Prophet ﷺ, and they're arguing with each other. I killed him, no, I killed you. You didn't do it, it was me. The Prophet goes, show me your swords. So they showed him their swords. He goes, inshallah, he goes, you both partook in the death of Abu Jahl. Again, Abu Jahl is what? Laid out now. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, a very small, diminutive companion. They say he was no more than 5 foot tall. The companions used to make fun of him. He was climbing up to look at his skinny legs. Right? And again, here we have to understand the nature of Iman. There's a companion, the brother of Anas ibn Malik, Barra ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu. They said, Kana hazilan. He was emaciated, meaning painful to look at, he's so skinny. This is the brother of Anas ibn Malik, the father of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But they say during the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab, he wrote a letter to all of the governors that if al-Barra comes to you, don't put him in charge of any army, because he's wild. Right? And there was a story when they were trying to take a fortress and they couldn't take it because the enemy were in a fortified position. So al-Barra said, he goes, put me on the manager, put me in the catapult and throw me over, because he was so skinny. So they put him on the catapult and threw him over. And they say he came down on it like a lion, like a bolt of lightning. And he opened up the gate to allow the Muslims to come in and gain victory, or gain the upper hand. They say that how did he pass away? That they were again fighting a campaign in a fortress, and the enemy would boil cauldrons of oil, put metal hooks on chains and throw them over. And they say they were lodging themselves in the Muslims and lifting them up. And so Barra sees his brother Anas ibn Malik gets one of these hooks lodged in his back. And they said that he ran up whilst Anas ibn Malik is being raised, and he's removing the hooks from his brother's back. Whilst he's doing this, the flesh from his hands is just peeling off. And he died from those wounds. But look, he was so painful, he was so skinny, he was painful to look at. But he had the Iman that rocked the globe. Right? They say that during the time of the Mahdi, alayhi salam, that on a campaign that they waged, their war cry is going to be La ilaha illallah. And they say that when they come across the enemy, they say from the quwwat al-iman, from the immense iman, faith of this group of people, because how many of the collective group will abandon the Mahdi? 2/3, 66%. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never look at those people ever again, they're doomed. But the iman of the third that are with him, their war cry is going to be La ilaha illallah. From the iman of the La ilaha illallah, a third of the enemy is going to fall into the sea. Hence, nurture your faith, nurture the seeds of iman in you, alongside, inshallah, physical activity. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, again, great companion. He was reciting Quran one day, and the Prophet ﷺ would stop and just listen to him recite Quran. And he used to say that whoever wants to recite the Quran, kama unzil, as it was revealed, and recite upon the recitation of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And then Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was making dua thereafter. And when he was asking, the Prophet was listening and saying, Sal tu'ta, ask it will be given, ask it will be given. Great companion. Umar ibn Khattab said when he heard this, he goes, I want to be the first to tell him about what the Prophet doing the Ameen to the dua of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So he goes, I got ready prepared, and I ran to see him, but Abu Bakr was already there, and he told him. He goes, never did I compete with Abu Bakr, so I need to do some good except that sabaq, and he always beat me. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud now is surveying the battlefield, and he stands on the chest of Abu Jahl. And Abu Jahl looks at him in the pangs of death, and he says, you've ascended a high mountain, O shepherd boy, meaning about himself. Or It's delusion on another level. And so he says, Liman al-Dubra al-Yawm, meaning who's won today? And so Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Allah wa Rasuluh, God and His Messenger have been given victory. And he says, well, akhzaka, and he's
Despicable.
yeah, made you wretched or despicable, abased you. He's abased you. And so he goes, how am I abased? I'm a man that's tasted death on the battlefield alongside my people. And so the lion ibn Mas'ud doesn't want to hear him talk from this man, so he takes his sword and he tries to cut the head off of Abu Jahl. And so his sword is blunt. So Abu Jahl said, he goes, take my sword and use this. Ibn Mas'ud is not picky. Give him the sword. So he takes the sword. What does Abu Jahl say? He says, when you cut my head, cut it from down here. So when Muhammad sees my head, he sees a big head. Again, Abdullah Mas'ud is not picky. I'll cut it wherever you want to cut it. this is it. And so he cuts off the head of Abu Jahl. And then they take it to the Prophet ﷺ, which is why he said, "Inni qatala Abu Jahl, yani abna Afra." The two of Afra, they killed Abu Jahl wa daffaqahu Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud finished him off. And when he saw the head of Abu Jahl, he says, "What likulli ummatin fir'aun, wa fir'aun ummati Abu Jahl." Every nation has a pharaoh, and the pharaoh of my nation is Abu Jahl. So he severs the head. Then the Muslims have been granted victory by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet says to them, what? He goes, did you find what your Lord has promised you? Because indeed, truly did I find what my Lord had promised me. And so Sayyidina Umar says to him, what? He says, Ya Rasulullah, tukhatibu ajsad dun arwah, you're addressing bodies without spirits or souls. And the Prophet he goes, they can hear me just as you can hear me, except that they are rendered impotent from responding. And so they place the bodies of the enemy, and they throw them, cast them into wells, and then the captives of war, he seeks counsel from his companions as to what to do with the captives of war. And so Sa'd ibn Mu'adh from the Ansar and Umar ibn Khattab said, Ya Rasulullah, akhrajuk, they have expelled you from your homeland, they have, alhamdulillah, they have harmed you. We know during the days of Mecca, when the Prophet ﷺ would go and he would pray at the Kaaba, that during one specific event, Quraysh came around him and they started to strangle him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when they're strangling him, Abu Bakr Siddiq comes forward and he repels their attack, and he says, what attack to the rajula, yaqulu Rabbi Allah, you're going to kill a man for saying my Lord is Allah? That's why you want to kill him? In essence, that's it, isn't it? Meaning our faith is very simple. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. That's why you're going to take a man out. So they focus their attack on Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And they attack him so badly that he falls unconscious. And they say they beat him so badly you couldn't tell the front of his face from the back of his head. It's just mush, blood. And so they carry him home. When they carry him home, he's unconscious for most of the day because of the beating that he was subject to. They say when he comes around, what does he say? Kayfa Rasulullah. How's the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? First thing from his mouth. Same thing the Seerah bint Ka'b, the woman we mentioned. When she was wounded so badly in Uhud, she falls unconscious. She wasn't cured from one of those wounds for over a year. That's how deep it was. When she falls unconscious, she comes down, what does she say? Kayfa Rasulullah. How's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And so some of his family members get angry at Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He's the reason that you're in this mess. He says, no, take me to him. So they carry him to the Prophet ﷺ, and they say, and they look at each other and they just start to weep. Right? That's our subhanAllah. So they seek counsel. So Umar al-Khattab said they have chastised you, they have tortured you, they have expelled you for Badr and Arqam, strike their necks. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq says what? He says, take them as captives and take the fida, take the money, ransom for them. So the Prophet ﷺ, he sides with the opinion of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And they were ransomed. They said some of the ransoms, those that could teach 10 Muslims to read and write, would be ransomed, and there were different ransoms for different captives. We see that soon after Umar al-Khattab enters upon Abu Bakr and the Prophet ﷺ, and he sees them both crying. And so he says what? He goes, tell me why you two are crying. And if I'm able to, I'm going to cry. And if I'm not able to, I'm going to fake it. Right? Just because they're doing it, he wants to what? Participate in what was going on. And so the revelation came in relation to that the position of Sayyidina Umar was a superior position in that right. Okay? So they say, I mean, from the end of that, they speak about like a lot of the leaders from Quraysh were taken out. Umar ibn al-Khattab had killed Al-As ibn Hashim al-Mughira, who was his maternal uncle. Bilal finally took revenge from Umayyah ibn Khalaf, all of the Ashraf of Quraysh. And so again, what we learn as a primary lesson from the Battle of Badr is the blessed statement of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, la ilaha illallah.